How's everybody doing? Good? Good? We got one well, that's good. Um, so I was talking to Luke earlier and he said something really important. Said can't be a fireside chat if there's no fire. Is that right, Luke?
Yep.
So it's just a chat.
Okay.
I'll take
Sure you
it.
don't want to start a fire.
Oh. You're tempting me now.
I guess it is a bit warm in here.
Anyways, man, how you doing? How's life?
Okay.
Is doing okay?
Yeah.
How you feeling right now?
Maybe a little hungry.
Hungry. Yeah, I haven't had lunch either.
I skipped breakfast too.
I did skip breakfast as well. Anyways, this is why you guys didn't come to hear just me and Luke just talking, but let's talk about Ocean, man. So I think you guys have been absolutely crushing it. The launch has been extremely well received by the Bitcoin community. And what motivated you, bro? What motivated you to start Ocean? And I actually have a little bit of a backstory regarding that. And perhaps people in the audience don't know, you actually started Ocean V1 back in 2011, and the name of it, I'm gonna mispronounce it. It's called Eligus. Is that correct?
I think everyone pronounces it differently. I pronounce it Eligius.
Eligus.
Yeah.
So what motivated you to start Ocean V2?
V2. Well, just to get that out of the way, Ocean V1 was pretty much just because I could. But Ocean V2, the reason I decided to relaunch the pool was because the decentralization issue with Bitcoin mining has become so severe. Bitmain controls over 40% of the network. Foundry's got, I don't know what it is now, but way too high. And the centralized mining pools, they essentially take all the whole mining job from the miners, and people are just contributing toward these large centralized, essentially they are the miner themselves. So with what that causes is right now for transactions to confirm that, the white paper says 6 blocks, but with the centralization, how it is, if you want to be secure with Foundry on the network, it's got to be 12 blocks. And if Bitmain is so big that it's got to be a whole week you wait before you consider transaction confirmed. So this is a major issue for Bitcoin. And so what I did with relaunching the pool as Ocean is we're not just going to be a typical pool that becomes just the next threat. We're actually, we've created this new datum protocol, which allows miners to make their own blocks. They're essentially solo miners, but they're still getting the shared economics of a pool by sharing the reward. When you find a block, you share your reward with everyone else mining on Ocean. If someone else finds a block, they share the reward with you, but you're all making your own blocks.
Gotcha. And let's talk about that, right? Because it's very unique what you guys do at Ocean in terms of the payout structure. But first, to just give a little bit of context to the audience, what is FPPS?
It stands for full pay per share, which is ironically not very full.
And is that what the majority of mining pools use today?
Yeah, it essentially is every share you submit, they pay you for it, whether or not there's a block found. No matter what happens with the Bitcoin network, it's just paid based on an arbitrary calculation they have.
And the theory behind that is to remove away the lottery component of it, right? To create more consistent payments?
Yeah, it pretty much eliminates all exposure to the Bitcoin network.
So could you explain the difference between FPPS and Ocean, and how does that translate to profitability?
With FPPS, they essentially decide a hash price for the day, and then throughout the day, they pay for each share you submit based on that hash price. With Bitcoin mining in general and Ocean, it's whenever a block is found, there's a reward associated with that block. And with Ocean, it gets shared among the miners who have participated in the pool up until that point. And so because there's a variance component to Bitcoin mining, there could be days where Ocean finds no blocks at all, so you get nothing. There could be days like yesterday we found 3 blocks, even though on average we only find 1 a day right at the moment. So there's a lot of variance there, and you can have wild swings. In some cases, like 500, maybe even more, and thousands of Bitcoins that you could be down from day to day or up day to day as a pool. And so the FPPS pools have to cover that risk factor. And so that usually manifests in the form of choosing a lower hash price than you could get on average with the direct pool.
So what's the incentive for Bitcoin miners to use Ocean versus the FPPS?
Well, the most altruistic incentive is to help decentralize Bitcoin, make it a viable currency. Most people don't realize the probability of Bitcoin succeeding as a decentralized currency is well under 50%. It's most likely that Bitcoin fails. And so by mining the blocks yourself, making your own blocks and helping decentralize the network, you contribute to hopefully bringing that percent probability upward and hopefully making Bitcoin a success. But also, sorry,
No, go ahead.
there was also other benefits, like by not having the FPPS middleman, you may have days where you don't have blocks and may have days where there's more, but overall it should pay better. And our miners have told us, in fact, it does in practice.
So, okay, just to break it down, right? So the short term, it might not, it removes the guarantee, it removes the insurance, so to speak, right?
Right.
But on a longer term basis, there's a much bigger payout,
Yeah.
but it's just not as consistent.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And simultaneously, you're supporting the decentralization of the network. Now, what I really find interesting, Luke, and obviously you have a ton of credibility behind you and your reputation speaks for itself. When you're saying that Bitcoin has less than a 50% chance of succeeding, I have a couple questions for you. What is your definition of success? And what is your definition of Bitcoin succeeding? And why do you put it at 50%? I mean, I like the regulatory environment changed in the United States. You know, you have nation states making it legal tender. Um, what are your thoughts?
I wouldn't even put it at 50%. That was a very generous estimate. Another developer several months ago put it at 3 or 4%, and he's probably not far off with that either.
Wow.
Um, I would say for Bitcoin to be a success, there has to be a decentralized system that provides the guarantees that are expected of Bitcoin. It's like people assume there will only ever be 21 million Bitcoins, but if the Bitcoin network becomes centralized, that guarantee is, out the door, and there's nobody to enforce it. We don't have a centralized entity enforcing the rules, so it's really either the Bitcoin users enforce it or there is no enforcement and the miners can just do whatever they want.
Gotcha. And I want to just so clarify to this audience, right? Because you were saying it earlier that, the typical confirmation for a block, you would say after 6 blocks, it's a done deal. This isn't going anywhere. I'm naive and I think, hey, a block, it's good. But you're saying because of how large these mining pools have become, if you truly want actual confirmation, it could take up to a week. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, the assumption with the 6 blocks is that the hash rate is not centralized. And the white paper goes in to talk about the potential for a 51% attack if it were to be centralized. And what people often don't realize is you don't need 51% of the network hash rate to do a 51% attack. You can do it with 30, even 20%. There's just a possibility that you will fail when you try to do it, but it's possible to succeed as well.
Gotcha.
51% just happens to be the point where you're guaranteed to succeed anytime you want to do an attack.
Gotcha. And I want to, I want to name some of these statistics, right? So we were talking about earlier, we're talking about Dr. Pepper and how it's a mixture between root beer and Coke. For anyone who doesn't know, it's true. But we were also talking about the fact that Ocean has found 4 blocks in the last week. Is that true?
I believe it was last week that 4 solo miners found blocks that were participating in Ocean. And that's important because they were solo mines. The miners themselves made the blocks.
So, so for the audience, how would you define a solo miner?
Someone who makes the blocks for themselves with their own full node.
Okay. Because I think there's differentiating opinions on that, right?
And there's a lot of confusion that certain people seem to intentionally cause, but the definition has been pretty set for over a decade now.
And why are solo miners so important?
Because by making their own blocks, they help decentralize the network.
And they could only do that with Ocean at the moment?
It's possible to do it on your own, but then it's like a lottery. You might only find a block once every decade, and except for that one time, you won't get paid at all. So what the Ocean does is by enabling the miners to share the rewards and still solo mine, you can still get the regular payments that you would get with a traditional pool, but you would still get the benefits of the solo mining and the decentralization.
How did you guys manage to do that?
Basically rethinking how pools should work. The way pools usually work is that the hasher connects directly to the pool, and the pool tells it basically what to do. And instead with Ocean, you have your node, and your miner connects to your node, and then your node is talking to Ocean to coordinate the payouts, but it's making the blocks itself.
And you guys have found a tremendous amount of interest and success with solar miners. I remember we were talking about it earlier when we were not having breakfast. You said that 75% of Ocean's hash is solo miners. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
That's incredible. Does the hash rate of Ocean continue to go up and to the right?
Yeah. Just over the past, I don't know, week or two, we've finally reached 6 exahash.
Congratulations.
It's about a block every week. Sorry, not a block every day.
So in the past, you've emphasized the importance of users running full nodes. How does that practice contribute to the overall health and the decentralization of the Bitcoin network?
The important thing is that when someone receives Bitcoins as a payment from usually someone they don't trust necessarily or don't even know, when you receive that payment, you should check that your own full nodes validates it, that it confirms on the network according to your full node. And by doing so, you enforce all the rules of the Bitcoin protocol on that transaction. And so one transaction may not be a big deal by itself, but collectively, that's how the protocol rules for Bitcoin are imposed on the entire network, is by everyone's who's doing commerce with Bitcoin enforcing the rules when they receive the payment.
Gotcha. So I'm wrapping my head around this while we're having this non-fireside, just chat. It's not just about using Ocean. The miner has to run their own full node as well.
That to decentralize Bitcoin, yes.
Gotcha.
Even if the miner doesn't run their own full node, there are other benefits simply because Ocean is still a small pool. And it also, by helping grow Ocean, it enables people who might not have as much appetite for variance to solo mine when they might otherwise not be able to because they can't handle a low hash rate pool. So there's always still benefits, but our goal is to get all the miners making their own blocks.
And that's a very noble goal, and completely support it from me as an individual. But what do we need to do as a community to really raise awareness to essentially this issue? Because the general consensus, Luke, is that Bitcoin is won. Like we won, like it's just numbers going up forever, $10 million Bitcoin, boom, bam, bing, ding, dong. But you're looking at me, you're saying, no, Nico, it's not even less than 50%. We're talking 3 to 4%, bro. And now I'm like, oh my God, I got to do something about it. So what would you like to see out of the community, out of the Bitcoin community that supports you, loves you? What would you like to see out of the community? Is it just a matter of raising awareness? What's your take on that?
Not just awareness, but people need to actually act on it. It's not enough that people can run a full node. People actually need to choose to run a full node and actually use the full node when they receive a payment. And that's the most important thing. Second most important is on the mining side. We can't have one or two entities with 30-40% of the network hash rate. You need to have that decentralized as well so that there can't be a 51% attack.
Do you think economically that's possible? Like, do you think the incentives are there? for that to happen long term.
Yeah, I think so. Um, like I mentioned earlier, miners are earning more on Ocean, and we actually give a lower fee for miners that make their own blocks. So we're trying to help make sure the incentives are set right there as well.
Gotcha. And what's the like customizability, right? Of because I think you guys offer that as well, right? You guys offer different kind of template solutions, is that correct?
That was kind of a stopgap for centralized mining. We're probably going to phase that out at some point. I don't know how soon. Um, that was to hold us over and give some kind of idea of miner choice before we had the full decentralized mining going, and the decentralized mining we launched last year, and that's been going well. So that that's probably the way forward for anyone who's starting the mine, or even if people are using different templates right now, they should probably still switch to making their own with their own node.
Why do you guys call yourself Ocean? It's a very big ocean out there, multiple big oceans.
Yeah. To contrast with the traditional pools, pools are permissioned. You have to have a membership to get in. On the contrary, Ocean, we're open to everyone. We don't have accounts. You just start mining to a Bitcoin address that you want to your reward to go to, and so it's we don't necessarily even know who our miners are. It's very simple to set up in that regard, and everything about it is transparent. You don't need to go into some office for the pool to see what's going on. Everything's publicly visible on what's going on the pool side. So it's kind of a play on words there.
Gotcha. So Luke, what makes you tick, man? What motivates you? Why do you get up in the morning? What's the first thing you think about?
Mm. I kind of see that originally Bitcoin was kind of just a fun experiment. I got into it like to basically have a currency for the trolling lumber system. The last several years, decade, has shown that the fiat system is on the verge of collapsing. The U.S. dollar is not going to be around much longer, and it seems like Bitcoin is the only way to not have a complete collapse for the future generations. I've got 11 children. I want there to be a functioning economy for them.
Very inspirational. So you're doing it for the future generations. You're not stacking Bitcoin or potentially helping improve Bitcoin, not for your first name, but for your last name.
Sure.
So let's talk about this, Luke. Where do you see Ocean 5 years from now?
Hopefully succeeded in decentralized mining.
What can you do? What are you guys planning in the near future in order to achieve that goal?
A lot of things underway. Some of the larger miners require SOC 2 compliance and silly stuff like that, but we're getting pretty close to having that. So some of the bigger miners can join the pool as well. For the smaller miners, mainly, we're also working on a share market where miners can sell their proofs of work that they've already mined to other people who would prefer to take on the volatility risk, and have that be an open market instead of the centralized market that the centralized pools are offering with FPPS, and basically make that wide open for a real true free market on proof of work.
So in the past, Jack Dorsey has called you the guardian of Bitcoin. Why do you think he said that?
Um, there's been several times in Bitcoin's history that Bitcoin could have or almost failed, and I played arguably a key role in helping resolve several of those.
How did you how did you what guided you? What guided you to make those decisions in order to keep uh Bitcoin on the right path, or help, better said, help keep Bitcoin on the right path?
Logic?
And you think a lot of people lack logic?
Maybe not, but I've been working on Bitcoin since early 2011, so I've been in the space a long time and have a good feel for the code, so it's probably more obvious to me what things are the right way to do things and solve any issues that come up.
Are ordinals a threat to Bitcoin's decentralization?
Ordinals are a threat to Bitcoin in many ways. Decentralization, yes, to an extent. Probably in the biggest way is the way they blew up the blockchain makes it harder for people to run their own full node. And also, another major way is they want to redefine how Bitcoin works so that there are individual Satoshis instead of arbitrary amounts. And you can track single Satoshis, basically undermining Bitcoin's fungibility completely, which not only creates more issues for using Bitcoin as a currency, but also you can't have a layer 2 if the currency isn't fungible. There's probably 4 or 5 other ways that they harm Bitcoin, but hopefully it gets a point across.
No, it absolutely does. So, reflecting on events like Bitcoin Independence Day, what lessons could be drawn about community governance and consensus in protocol upgrades?
And just like with Bitcoin needing security provided by all the users, the same goes for protocol upgrades. The users need to be the ones enforcing any protocol change in any direction, whether it's a hard fork or a soft fork.
Do you think Taproot was a mistake?
In hindsight, it seems like the activation was probably too quick. I don't know that enough users upgraded in time for it, but went smoothly. There was a bit of chaos when Bitcoin Core released an alternate activation method for it that was almost at odds with the community accepted activation. So that could be a bit of hopefully it won't be an issue in the future, but it's a concern.
Beyond mining pool distribution, what metrics should the community monitor to assess and promote decentralization within the mining ecosystem?
Besides just mining pools, there's also the risk of too much mining being done by entities within a single country. Like you wouldn't want to have 80% of the hash rate within just the US jurisdiction, because the US could seize all the machines and take over the network. And even if they're not 80% all under the same entity today, they could be tomorrow. So you want to have some geographical distribution of mining and mining entities as well.
So you said that the success, the probability, the percentage, if you put the percentage of the probability of Bitcoin succeeding 3 to 4%, has that increased or decreased as time gone by?
Probably decreased.
It was higher before?
Yeah, back in 2013, I think we had a much better, probably over 50% chance of success.
Sounds like it's going in the way wrong
Yeah,
direction, man.
Fortunately, but what alternatives do we have at this point?
And you think there's none, right?
We got to make Bitcoin succeed,
Of course.
in whatever it takes.
Yep, yep. I say it all the time, Bitcoin or slavery, for sure. So Luke, and this is the goal that you guys set out with Ocean. Like, this is why it's so important. You believe that that percentage of Bitcoin succeeding is essentially as low as it is because of the mining pool centralization. And that is your mission and your goal, and you're so focused, the reason you get up in the morning, and that's why you're building Ocean.
I would put the node centralization risk a little higher than the mining centralization risk. And I'm still working on that aside from Ocean. But yeah, that was why I started Ocean back up, and hopefully we can at least solve the number 2 problem and while we work on the number 1, which not quite as easy to solve with a company.
Yeah, I mean, but haven't the number of nodes on the network actually gone up?
Not relative to the number
Like,
of people using Bitcoin.
I'm a media guy, bro, and I'm running multiple nodes. Like, there's plenty of open source plug and play solutions these days.
There are, but the amount of people holding Bitcoin, buying Bitcoin, selling Bitcoin, spending Bitcoin has gone up much faster than the number of nodes. And so it's a relative figure. I would say for the network to truly be safe, we need to have at least 85% of the economic activity day to day using their own full node to receive.
And in self-custody, I'm assuming as well, right?
Right, and
There's the custodial problem, which is massive.
that's a more of a risk for the people doing commerce than it is to the network, whereas using the full nodes is more of a risk to the network if there aren't enough people.
Gotcha. Okay. And but okay, and okay, so the number of nodes has gone up, but proportionate to the amount of users that have joined the Bitcoin network, that number hasn't caught up with it.
It hasn't kept pace. For a while, we actually saw the number of nodes going down. That has reversed a little bit, so that's hopeful.
Okay, and then now I'm connecting the dots. This is why ordinals suck, because it increases the resource requirements, and if it increases the resource requirements, it raises the barrier to entry, less people running a node.
Right, and even more broadly, that's I don't know how well aware people are, but I've been an advocate for smaller blocks for years. The rate that technology improves only suffices for about 300 kilobytes per block in terms of the blockchain growth. So that's why the blocks being as large as they are, the 2 to 4 megabyte blocks, outpaces the rate that we have CPUs, solid state drives, and such bandwidth improving.
Gotcha. So we're almost getting to the top of the hour. We're running out of time, and a couple questions for you. I heard we have the same personal trainer.
I'm not going to dox them.
And last and final question. This didn't come from me. Maybe it did. Why didn't the champagne break when you hit it on the ASIC?
The glass was very thick.
It was a scam.
I don't know about a scam. Usually you don't want bottles to break, so that's probably intentional.
Oh my God. Well, it's an honor, everyone. Luke Dash Jr., thank you so much.